This is a new Nigeria with Wale Oluwade. This is your current affairs program where we critically examine those strategic issues that bedevil Nigeria's developmental aspirations and boldly offer simple but practical and audacious ideas on building the Nigeria of our collective desires. Today's episode is a continuation of the previous one I did with my guest, Dr. Akin Fakbomuda, a leading agronomist and environmentalist, also a retired director with the Federal Civil Service of Nigeria. Now, we'll be looking in depth at what Nigeria ought to be doing, or what we ought to have been doing, but which we never did. We actually started, the founding fathers started this in the 50s, 60s, up to maybe late 70s. But with the incursion of the military, we stopped an economy that was productive. And then we moved into the indolent economic philosophy of just merely depending on importation. And we've abandoned our own critical exploitation of the God-endowed natural resources. And something that bothers me about the media and the intellectual class in Nigeria is the resort, to quick fixes. Yesterday the CBN reeled out new monetary policy rates. And of course, the conversation has been examining or x-raying what the CBN has done, how it will impact on inflation, how it will bring down FX rates. And in my mind, I'm wondering, we're having the wrong conversation. The CBN cannot be a magician, until we get Nigeria back to proper production, proper, path of industrialization. We're going to continue to have these conversations, until Jesus returns, So we'll take this short break, and when I return, my guest and I, would examine today what I've outlined. Please stay with us. Welcome back. So, like I said, today we're examining the second episode of Why Nigeria is Poor, Rethinking Nigeria's Development Agenda. So, in the first episode, I touched on the reasons why Nigeria is poor. Number one, I said, because of an egregiously incompetent and visionless political leadership. What do I mean by this? Every nation of the world that has become industrialized, where the Human Development Index is pretty high, they have a political leadership. They've had and still have a political leadership, where they are, they have great leadership competencies or transformational leadership competencies. Number one quality of a transformational leader is strategic visioning. I'm not talking of vision in terms of pipe dreams, strategic visioning. The capacity to envision moving a country or a business from point A to point C or point D. Radical shift, in terms of achievement or goals. Number two, strategic thinking in terms of priority. Look at Nigeria. Our priority has always been warped. Our leadership class has, a totally warped priority. Rather than educate the children, for instance, our leaders are busy building 15 billion worth of castles for the vice president, buying SUVs of 10, 20 billion, and all of that. Strategic thinking in terms of priority. You have an 8-point agenda, which I had counseled should be reduced to 3, because you cannot do anything without electricity. So what agenda do you have if you do not have electricity? You have no agenda. You cannot do anything. Another quality of great leaders that we do not have in Nigeria, we have not had for a long time, is that they embody personal discipline, which they also transmute to general society. Discipline in terms of orderliness. They are orderly, they are disciplined, and so they ensure the society they preside over is a disciplined society, an orderly society. There is no society that can grow or prosper in an atmosphere of chaos, which is what Nigeria, look at Nigeria. Nigeria is almost collapsing into a state of anarchy because of indiscipline from the top, to the bottom. I'm not necessarily referring to the current administration. I'm talking about the different tiers of our government architecture for years now. Also, great leaders are able, to build teams of capable lieutenants. It's not an idea of a general with 1,000 helpers. I'm talking of a great leaders surround themselves with, in some cases, teams of rivals, teams of equals, people who can challenge them, people who can hold them accountable, people who can say, no, this is not the way to go, this is the way to go. Great leaders who have built great countries have that uncanny ability to surround themselves with excellent team members. Also, without going too much further, great leaders are able to surround them, are results-oriented. They benchmark themselves against, certain, minimum thresholds of accomplishments in terms of, okay, unemployment rates must move from here to here. We must grow GDP to this. We must grow economy to this, and all of that. We've not had that. So when I say we have been saddled with an egregiously incompetent and visionless leadership, that is what I'm talking about. Number two, why Nigeria is poor, corruption with impunity. The kind of corruption that maybe is a local government chairman, embezzled money or performed woefully as a local government chairman. But guess what? Rather than being sanctioned or being set aside, is promoted to a higher office. So there is no consequence for poor leadership. That is where we are, where we are. So, look at China. Someone was the FA chairman in China and embezzled a mere $11 million. I say a mere because compared to Nigeria, a mere $11 million embezzlement is pocket money. But the guy is facing life imprisonment in China. So there is no impunity for bad behavior in China. There is no impunity for bad behavior, in other civilized society, whether you're president or prime minister or even ordinary citizen. Until we begin to clamp down on corruption, with impunity, we probably will not go anywhere. Another reason is because we celebrate mediocrity. Like I said in the first episode, we used to promote mediocrity. Now we celebrate mediocrity. Just yesterday, I saw Gobe State, celebrating distribution of palliatives, to the citizens. And it was being aired live on television, on national TV. The distribution of palliatives to the citizens is something to be celebrated, isn't it? That is why we are the way we are. I saw Osun State where the governor is laying the foundation, for Hajj transit camp, and it's being aired live on television, celebrating mediocrity. Like I touched on briefly, CBN announced some rates yesterday. Or no, CBN paid off backlog of FX rates due to some maybe airlines or other people. And it's the topic of celebration in the media. Why are we like this? What's the big deal about CBN fulfilling its mandate? Should they have owed in the first place? So we celebrate mediocrity. We celebrate mediocrity. And then we expect the nation to make progress. We're not going to go anywhere if we continue in that fashion. Another reason, lack of patriotism. The best illustration for patriotism, everyone who is occupying public office in Nigeria today, either elected or appointed, let me ask them, if we take away the perks of office, the benefits associated with those offices, for instance, the long motorcade, the policemen or soldiers standing behind, if we take away all those benefits, would you still be willing to serve? Because if you are not willing to serve this country without benefits, either pecuniary or otherwise, you are not patriotic. You are not patriotic. Are you willing to serve Nigeria without any benefits whatsoever? If you are willing to do that, then you are a patriot. Finally, failure of the intellectual class. In every society that is progressive, that is advanced or civilized, I've studied this for decades. At the top of social order are the intellectuals. Every society where you have, politicians, especially the brand we have in Nigeria, who are craven, who are, no redeeming feature. It's all about power for the sake of power. That society is not going to make any progress. That is why we are the way we are. When the military came, part of the fallout of military intervention in our political system is that they were anti-intellectual. The military establishment, dealt a death blow to the ivory towers in Nigeria. And when the politicians took over, they didn't stop from that disastrous path. So the best brains left this country, and then we have what we have today. The ivory towers have collapsed. So you see intellectuals today feeding at the tables of politicians, unable to tell the truth to politicians. Because the society where I grew up in as an undergraduate was the society of Professor Sam Aluko, Professor Claude Ake, Dr. Bala, Usman of the famous ABU. Now, these were men, Gani Fayemi, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, Wole Soyinka. These were men who held leaders to account. Tai Sholari, they spoke truth to power. How many of those do we have? And the media isn't helping in this, sadly. The media ought to promote intellectualism, organize symposiums and seminars. That's not what the media is doing. The media gives awards to politicians. And you wonder, award for what? Because this country is the way it is. You are celebrating politicians. For what exactly? I do not know. Okay, so I'll take this short break, and then I'll bring my guest in so that we can get into the conversation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. My guest today, like I mentioned earlier, is Dr. Akin Fakonda, agronomist, environmentalist, and retired director with the Federal Civil Service of Nigeria. Doctor, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, viewers.
Last episode, we talked exclusively about agriculture, but I remember I did mention that is the least, actually. That's what we call low-hanging fruits. In the real manufacturing sector, Nigeria is nowhere to be found.
At all.
Now, sir, look at this slide. This is top 10 global biggest exporting industries. So, in these top 10 global exporting industries, agriculture does not feature.
At all.
Sir, agric does not feature here.
Goods and service manufacturing.
This is pure manufacturing now.
And no power.
So, we're talking about oil and gas, where we ought to be a dominant player. We're talking about global car and auto manufacturing. We're talking about global pharma and medicine. We're talking about global plastic products and packaging manufacturing, global apparel industry, global auto parts and accessories, global consumer electronics parts manufacturing, then global semiconductors and electronic parts, global paper and pulp mills, global iron ore mining. In all of this, we don't even rank in the top 50, apart from crude oil, where we are number 10 or so in crude oil. But even that, you'll see it in one of the slides shortly, where we're performing woefully. But, sir, so when I say we're having the wrong conversation, am I wrong? Am I wrong, sir?
Basically, we're at a crossroads in the country where the era where money was no object. And we created so many institutions, so many bodies, and then now we are not productive. Even the base, agriculture is non-existing. We now transform from agric to industrial, from industrial to information age. And so sad that the policy of Nigeria is not based on ideology just to transact and share and share. And we have to go back to the basics of why are we in existence. We are not even doing farming.
The modern mechanized farming.
We have 16 research institutes, and they are all just collecting salaries from IPPIS. They are not giving any money to do any practical work at all. So they're just collecting salaries and nothing else.
So, doctor, if this 16 research institutes, what exactly are they contributing to agriculture, sir?
Nothing, because practical example, I wanted to plant vegetables this year. I sent somebody physically to go to 9 Hut in Ibadan. They cannot sell me tomato,
9
pepper.
Hut is the abbreviation of what, sir?
Nigerian Institute of Horticultural Research. They're supposed to get the best planting materials
Enhanced
for vegetables.
seedlings.
Yes. They don't have.
Wow.
Because they'll not be giving money to do that at all. So if you can, in fact, they're supposed to have selling centers nationwide want to buy.
Wow.
How many people can afford to send someone from Abuja to Ibadan to buy? So that shows nothing is happening in cocoa research, in rubber research, in cereals research. They are all just bureaucracy, just to collect salaries from government. And when we talk about the country to be restructured, we just have bureaucracy on welfare salary. They are not doing anything impactful.
Wow.
That's just the foundation. Until we go to that and restructure and find out, we really want to do farming. Have you seen any place where you have 500 hectares of farm in Nigeria?
Yeah.
None.
Wow.
From here to Kano, from here to Lokoja, it's all bush.
With a vast land,
Vast
expanse of land.
Between Ibadan and Lagos, supposed to have horticultural plants on both sides, even good flowers that you can sell. Wow. Rather, it's just bush.
Wow. And the bushes have been taken over because nature abhors a vacuum.
Bandits.
Bandits have taken over, kidnappers have taken them over.
Dead
a
vehicles.
friend of mine came in from the UK. He lives in Norwich. So he traveled to London to fly to Nigeria. He said, Wale, I saw solar panels, solar farm. For the coach ride from Norwich to London is about 4 hours. He said from Norwich to London, he saw solar farms all over.
On both sides.
But sir, this is the irony of it all. This is England, where you and I know it's all about rain. They don't have sun.
They don't have sun.
But they put those things there that even if it's one day they can get sun, they'll capture it and store it.
There is no road in Nigeria you can get mangoes on both sides of the road.
Both sides of the road.
None. No place where you can travel 10 kilometers and you see cultivated tree, citrus,
so this
oranges.
natural environment is just rotting away, just wasting away.
And if you cannot get that right, you cannot manufacture. What are you going to import raw materials? Nestle bring raw materials in. Cadbury, they bring raw material. They just mix and add water. That's not the manufacturing. Even cassava, we cannot get cassava to manufacture.
You will see, Doctor, look at, because why I'm actually is that, like I keep saying, we're having a wrong conversation.
Absolutely.
Sir, if we have leadership that says we'll do 10%, sir, this is exports, actually. This amounts here are exports. These industries are actually like maybe times 3, the total value of these industries. But each of these countries, when they produce this, they take care of themselves before they export. So these are just export values. So, sir, imagine Nigeria cannot, if Nigeria says we want to do 10% in all of this, we're already talking about an economy that is in the trillions. But can we do this with insecurity all over the land? Can we do this without electricity? The answer is a no.
Our leaders are pretentious. Ordinary Vietnam that came from war.
Sir, I will show you.
Over. Vietnam.
You'll see it shortly. Vietnam. I love that you mentioned Vietnam. I love the mention of Vietnam. Now, look at consumer electronics and semiconductors exporters. These are the top countries that export consumer electronics, our iPhones, television, and all of that, and semiconductors. These are the countries. China is doing 700 billion plus.
What power in
China.
technology.
Look at, America is trailing China by over 500 billion.
Absolutely.
Because the point is about this is that even though most of the proprietary technology is domiciled in America,
US,
but they go to China to manufacture.
Skills.
They
have skills.
Cheap labor and availability of electricity.
It's not even cheap, but skills.
The skilled labor are there. They have them in number.
They have engineers.
And they have the utility. They have the resources.
Environment.
The environment. There's law and order.
Absolutely.
So look at Hong Kong. Look at all of this. Look at Vietnam. You mentioned
from war, from bomb. They were saturated bomb during the
Vietnam earning $40 billion. $40 billion.
Yeah, and agriculture.
Look at Singapore. Look at South Korea that we talked about the other time.
Thailand.
Look at Hong Kong.
Thailand. Rice.
This is consumer electronics. We are here. Every day we talk about on television about CBN, this, CBN, that, CBN, that. We're having the wrong conversation. Am I wrong, doctor?
Actually,
I'm asking you again.
I was talking to an official of the government now. Early in the year, J.P. Morgan said the $33 billion we have, $30 billion have been pledged collateral.
To pay debt as collateral for forwards.
We have $3 billion left. So if you have grown up 38, we actually have $8 billion
in deficit.
We have $8 billion reserve. 30 have been pledged.
Wow.
And we are not paying by the loans. We are paying interest. So what you have now is $8 billion worth of reserve. And if CBN is now doling out dollars to people to sell, how far can they go? How far can they maintain?
Oh, because they say, the exchange rate is firming up against the dollar. And I'm like, how long? Because it is on steroids. What is going on now is like a doctor giving a patient steroids.
It will go down.
It will go down. When the steroid wears off, what happens?
We are morphine.
You're
injection.
morphine.
We are morphine injection.
Look at this, sir. I want you to see this, doctor. So let's leave the electronics. Let's come to Look at crude oil, sir, where we ought to be a key player. At some point in our history, we're the 6th largest producer, exporter of crude oil. But look at where we are, sir.
Lower, not that broken.
49 billion.
In
And this
Nigeria,
49 billion, when we export it 49 billion, we import way more than this in terms of finished products. So we come to a net of zero or minus.
We have importing crude oil now for Dangote. We're
Exactly.
importing crude oil.
Exactly.
We
cannot meet supply of crude oil to Dangote, to
all.
even all these refineries we're talking about. We cannot.
We cannot. And nobody's talking about
But
this.
sir, look at what these countries are earning. Saudi Arabia. Look at what they're earning. 120 billion. Look at what they're earning. Now, beyond what they're earning, the question is, or the important detail here is that what they have done, what all these countries have done with the crude oil revenues. Look at UAE. Look at UAE. Qatar hosted the World Cup last year.
Seamlessly.
You saw the state.
Seamlessly.
You saw it.
Seamlessly.
The beautiful nation of Qatar. In the height of heat of summer.
Air-conditioned stadium.
But air-conditioned stadium.
I know. We just.
So what have we done? Sir, I did a rough extrapolation of this in the last 60 years that we've been exporting crude oil. We have earned over $3 trillion. If we net off plus or minus $1 trillion, so let's say we have earned $2 trillion. The question is, sir, is there anything to show in Nigeria in terms of infrastructure, human resources, in terms of quality of life?
SUVs,
to show
SUV for the politicians, that's
just
all.
SUV and bank balances,
That's all.
massive buildings.
The sad part is that what we are talking now, we are talking to converted. I had the privilege of talking to the governor of my state, Osun State. Can they come and listen to this? But they will not invite us to come and talk to them.
They are not interested.
They are in their own world.
I told you in the introduction, sir, that I saw a video just 2 days ago. The governor is laying the foundation for Hajj transit camp in Osun State. So when I talked about leadership, that strategic thinking enables you to prioritize what is important. Sir, can you tell me what the role of a governor is in the north, Kano State, Kebbi State? They are doing mass marriages. The governors are engaged in mass marriages. And then when they do the mass marriages, for maybe 50 people, 100 people, they give them bed and Indomie noodles and all of that.
In fact, the worst part is that you are buying what is produced. You are not producing. You are only buying what is in the market already. So we are not increased production. This is now March going to April. There are no plan. How many hectares under cultivation? What is the targeted harvest in August? We're only taking off now. We're not taking off August.
Doctor, yesterday I saw Gombe State distributing palliatives. A sea of palliatives, as the pictures will show. But the question that bothered, and they said the SSG, Secretary to the State Government, said that was the 17th ceremony, 17th round of palliative distribution.
The cost of that.
So I'm asking myself, this is the 17th time. So how long does it take to cultivate enough food to have ended the cycle of palliative distribution?
There are no plans for that. It's just populist events just to show that you are doing something.
They are doing something.
Motion without movement. That's what we are doing. It's so sad.
Okay, so let's leave this now. Let's come to food. This is rice. The top 10 global rice exporting nations in the world. The global export of rice costs 29 billion. These are the countries.
Despite additional intervention those days, we thought something would come, but
of course, as soon as the man left,
everything just evaporated.
They scrapped everything.
Everything just evaporated. Nothing.
As soon as he left, they abandoned it.
All the projects for rice to produce locally as
we are still a net importer of rice because we still cannot meet local consumption.
We can't.
Least of all, export.
We can't.
But sir, look at this.
It's just mind-boggling.
So when I say we are when I talk about the media, that we're having the wrong conversation.
Well, you can't blame the media. The government set the agenda. We are a political party. There are no political party. Political party is supposed to defend the ideology of governance and instruct the people who are running government. But there is no political party.
With due respect, I agree with you, but to an extent, I disagree on the part of the media. Part of the job of the media, which they've done excellently, is to report news, is to interrogate news, but also set agenda. For instance, sir, correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says he's coming with an 8-point agenda. And I said, no, you don't have 20 or 30 years to govern. Reduce this 8-point to 3. The media kept more money and supported the government. Which of this 8-point agenda have they achieved?
None. There is no plan to do anything. Seriously, just day to day.
Because
Transactional.
every great leader of the world that I've studied, they have strategic thinking. The law of strategic thinking is the law of priority. To say, we're in a mess, gentlemen. But what is important? What is it that we should focus on first?
If it's food, then...
If it is food, you focus on it. If it is insecurity, if it is power, you focus on it.
And power is a very big denominator.
Sir,
and
power will solve insecurity, power will solve food, it will solve all of that. Doctor, we'll take this short break and then we'll continue. Welcome back. We need to let the people know that
there are options.
we're facing the wrong direction.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
It's like somebody who says he's going to Ibadan or Lagos.
And you're facing Mediocrity.
And he's facing Mediocrity.
Why is he moving somewhere? We're not moving anywhere, though.
We're not even in fact, like somebody said, he said we're going backwards. This my friend that came from Norwich that was not I told you about that. He said we're going in the wrong direction.
We are not moving at all, actually.
Sir,
any direction, we're not moving.
Because wheat, for bread, for this, for that. Sir, this is maize, sir. Doctor, look at maize.
And that's a big problem because for poultry, for
everything.
For pharmaceuticals,
for whatever. Look at it. Now, so, sir, with the land, with the people, why is Nigeria not involved in any of this, doctor?
We are not destined to be. The way we have set up the country from independence, we are not transited into a Greek revolution, really. We are still in the archaic. We are not properly in a Greek revolution. We are not. We are not. So we're just talking academic. Until the leader wake up, we must go back and start on a great revolution properly.
Next slide. Doctor, we'll take this, then I want you to also speak to the president and to the governors. I will give you the opportunity to speak to them. Let it not be only me. You would speak to them. But look at this again. This is cassava. Now, sir, something interesting about cassava. Nigeria is the world's largest producer of cassava, but earning less than 1 million from its exports.
We don't process.
This is Thailand and Cambodia, over 50.
We don't process.
Over almost 70%. And this is what they're earning, the top 10. Our cassava is just to eat gari and fufu and amala.
It's not.
And then the little that we export is to our relatives in the UK and America.
It's in poor quality because you need it to feed animals.
Exactly.
In Netherlands, they import it for
cassava,
feed animals.
You get sobito, you get ethanol, you get flour, you get all sorts. Starch from cassava. The different industries use.
You don't need the irrigation to do it.
No.
Cassava can plant
cassava
and grow
anywhere.
And you can keep.
Sir, I have siblings. I have siblings who are still alive, older than me. In my dad's house, my father's house in Ibadan. I can't remember what did not grow on its own.
Yeah.
In my father's house, it was part of the land was marshland. And I'm not talking of the village. Yemetu, just 10 minutes from Bodija. I'm saying sugarcane, mango, pawpaw, whatever, cassava, everything grew naturally.
So fertile.
Fertile land. And we've been on this for decades, and we cannot add value to this and find ourselves. Look at Vietnam, look at Laos, look at these countries that are a fraction of Nigeria in terms of size, in terms of population. Sir, look at palm oil. The legendary palm oil that we keep deceiving ourselves that Malaysia came here to take, which is a lie. Look at it.
We're not doing anything.
We're not doing anything.
At all.
And there's no Nigerian food that we don't use palm oil for any of our soups.
Yeah.
Now, palm oil nowadays, the global powers are extracting, they are converting palm oil to a source of energy, a source of fuel for cars.
Absolutely. For brake fluid and things like that.
For all sorts of things.
Brake fluid and all that.
So, sir, I brought all of this. Then we've come to this point that, sir, I want you to speak to the president. Perhaps they're listening, and to the governors.
Well, Mr. President, you have a chance to define this period in history of Nigeria. We are just at ground zero. When people are talking about restructuring, it's not political. Restructuring is for economic survival. There are too many institutions that are not doing what they're supposed to do. What is NIFO doing? What is NIHO doing? We need to have 5-6 zones of agricultural production in Nigeria. Each zone will be specialized. There will be oil palm belt, there will be corn belt, there will be maize belt. And in each of those belts, you are going to have processing industry tied to those crops. We're just everything all over Nigeria. There's no specialization. That is wrong. And federal government cannot do this thing. We have to go to the idea of marching grants to the regions.
Exactly.
Federal government cannot be in Abuja and say you are supervising production all over the country. No. The federal ministry agreeing to be reduced to a planning commission on agriculture so that you just give targets. If you produce 20,000 tons of this at whatever cost, federal government will give you a matching grant so that it's production-led push that you need to give. You just have the budget. If you don't produce, you don't get the money. We have to change the modality of how we do things into a way that will stimulate competition and will stimulate production.
Amongst the zones.
And once we do agriculture, every other thing will fall. If, for instance, the government to say all children in schools must take milk with soya beans, that's already 20 million worth of demand. And now such a program, people will go and take loan, they will produce that product, and there's a regular market which government has. That's how the Western region marketed cocoa those days. They will announce the price per ton of cocoa at a season. Farmers will go and produce.
And government will buy it
and
from
government
them.
will buy at the guaranteed price. This is how people are starting growing cocoa those days. There's a target, and there's an incentive pricing mechanism that will support it. Those things are not rocket science, but I just marooned. Can we have a small team of people who have been in this area, not political people now, who can design a scheme?
Intellectuals.
Devoid of politics. We need to do this. Time is of essence. I pray people will listen. I pray we will act. Otherwise, well, Somalia exists. Afghanistan exists. We can remain like this for the next 20, 30 years. We'll be feeding on ourselves. We'll be killing dog, eat dog. We can continue. We can, the ground will still remain. But we'll be dying, killing ourselves.
Which is going on already.
Which is going on. So we can continue. If you do not, we can continue like this forever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Deceiving ourselves. Talking about a CBN
Congo has been like that since 1962.
Absolutely.
Congo is richer than Nigeria 20 times.
Absolutely.
But they never organized themselves. So the country is split into areas where they are managed cobalt, managed this. So we can remain like this if we do nothing. Plan for the next election. Okay, 2027. But we will remain where we are. We are not safe.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you. I pray the President has listened to you. Doctor, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Having you. And I hope, after some time, we'll come back and take a deeper dive again. Now, that's the program today. Remember to follow me on my various social media handles. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can watch this particular episode and all the other episodes that are there. Drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Now, remember, like I always say, change requires action. Positive change requires positive action. I believe in a new Nigeria, and it is possible. Bye for now.